What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Gas prices are going back up thanks to this illegal war Donald Trump is having with Iran. There's a lot of black people who say they don't care about what's happening in Iran. They don't care about any of that stuff. Some people even wonder why I talk about it because they say it doesn't have anything to do with black people, which tells me that these people they're not plugged into global politics. They can't comprehend how international activities can affect you domestically. They're not plugged in, right? And I understand that. But you need to realize that if you are an African American or any kind of African, any black person in America, you are being affected because these wars that's happening, right? They're not happening for any real religious ideological reasons. That's the propaganda giving to those they need to support them. All right. This has nothing to do with Christianity, Islam, terrorism, wanting to destroy Israel and all that crap. It ain't got nothing to do with this. These are the rich millionaires and billionaires who are practicing capitalism, and capitalism, its mechanism is to make more money and destroy competition. Okay, so. For a long time, we understood that we couldn't just attack Iran because of its strategic location, as it is positioned right in the trading routes in which all the world needs to, use to pass goods and commerce, right? So when Donald Trump, against the advisement of the military, decided to attack Iran, the only leverage Iran has against the imperial forces of America and Israel is the Strait of Hormuz. It's the only thing they can do. Now, I know you guys are hearing, the propaganda says we're losing this, and to be quite honest, we're not losing, and that's the problem, right? 17 to 18 troops have been KIA'd, and many more have been injured, right? And as you heard Donald Trump say it with zero empathy for the families of those 18 soldiers and airmen and Marines, who lost their lives unnecessarily. And they were in countries that weren't involved in the conflict, directly. And they died because a rich, white, neo-Nazi authoritarian millionaire was convinced by Israel to disrupt Iran so that Israel can be a more powerful player in the area and not have the threat of Iran, which is a country that's capable of fighting back against Israel when greater Israel borders start to creep close to Iran, right? These are the Persians, all right, who are doing the checks and balances on the Western-backed and created country of Israel that should not exist for obvious reasons, right? And so despite what you see on the TV, America is devastating Iran, killing tens of thousands of people. This is not a fair war. Now, a lot of people have a skewed view of how the earth looks, right? And you're wondering, well, if America is doing this and that, how can Iran still have places to fire off, weapons? How can they still hit ships and things like that? People have a fundamental misunderstanding of how large this planet is, how big land masses are, and how little space we human beings actually occupy on this planet. Despite all the propaganda that you hear, every single human being, listen to me, all the billions of us, every single human being on the planet can fit in Manhattan with arm length distance between the next person. If every human being, all the billions and billions of us, the 9 billion, 8 billion, we could all stand in Manhattan and still be within the borders of Manhattan with arm length between each other. Okay, we do not occupy a great deal of this planet. Very small. When you look at like the Arabs in the north, you think that they're overrunning. There's very small populations of habitable land in the north of Africa, and in that very small spot, there are small populations of human beings hanging on to those small spots of North Africa. So when you see it, you say, "Oh, the Arabs got all of North." They have little livable enclaves on the coast of the Mediterranean. There's not that many of them there. There's not that many of anybody anywhere except for Africa and Asia, right? And despite that, Because you guys don't understand how big the planet is, you don't understand how big Africa is, and why the Asians and the Europeans are willing to commit genocide in order not to go around Africa simply to trade goods. Because Africa is so big, they'd rather fight wars and kill each other to take the shortcut, because it's cheaper than traveling around that massive continent. Listen to me now. A continent that can fit the other continents in it. Hey, think about that now. A continent that can fit all the other continents in it. Like, you just in your head, you can't fathom it because the maps have not really displayed how massive Africa is, right? Right, how big it is. You can't even visualize it, right? So because of that, they're willing to kill and murder and destroy, right, to keep the Straits of Hormuz open. The Suez Canal is the same situation. All these canals is just shortcuts to go around Africa because it costs too much. And then when you get around southern Africa, right, when you get around South Africa, those waterways are very, very rough. Very rough. And it's dangerous. So, you know, they don't want to do that either. So they rather take that shortcut. So Donald Trump he effectively clogged up the global economic system we had going on for his own selfish reasons. And now we have mission creep, because you have this overwhelming dominant power of America who can just lob missiles and bombs and all sorts of fancy shit left and right. And then you have the Iranians who've been preparing to be attacked by the Israelis and America for decades, since we did it the last time and disrupted their stable government, putting in a tyrannical religious government who we now call terrorists, who we created, by the way, right? So all the terrorism that Iran supposedly participates in is sponsored by the United States of America, just like the Taliban is sponsored by and created by the United States of America, just like ISIS is sponsored and created by the United States of America. You got to understand, all these terrorist organizations were once freedom fighter organizations fighting other groups of people on behalf of the U.S. But as soon as we lost interest, we labeled them terrorists, and now they are greenlit for the Western world to attack and label and justify all of their world conquering. See, white people have never stopped doing what they've been doing, right? They've been, if you think about how long they've been attacking Arabs, it's about as long as, you know, a couple thousand years now. So they've always been enemies with the Arabs, and Arabs are nothing but traitors, like, you know, trading goods and services. They're the combination of Africans, Asians, and Europeans mixing over thousands of years in that point of contact between Asia, Africa, and Europe. And those people have manifested themselves into a distinct group of people who encompasses all people genetically. But they have a problem with the Europeans because Islam, Christianity, two Abrahamic religions, which is basically two denominations of the same Abrahamic religion, who fight each other over various little differences, made up things and shit like that. But they use that amongst their uneducated population to justify the wars and genocides and the massacres that happen in the area. Right, that's true. But because this Donald Trump did something that even any other president wouldn't do, because of the disruption, right, that Iran can drum up, because of their only defense after getting bombarded by missiles and rockets and getting their infrastructure destroyed and killing children and all kind of stuff. Only thing they can do is protect a small 6 to 7 mile lane of territory from many different places that even the most advanced form of technology, you can't, you know, you can pull up with a vehicle, throw some rockets on it, lob it, and move on. It's not that difficult, right? Same reason why Israel keeps getting attacked by Lebanon. As much technology as we give Israel and let them do whatever they want, right, with their free health care, free killing care, free gun care, free genocide care, they still can't stop, you know, some rebels from lobbing some rockets, you know, over the border. And now that we have the advent of drones, it has changed warfare totally. So now you're able to be more effective with cheaper weapons. So now your $100 drone can compete with an $80,000 missile. So now the playing field is being slightly evened, right? And the people I feel sorry for is the American troops who are forced to fight the war that I'm sure they know is unjustified, but they have no choice, right? And those Iranian soldiers who are forced to fight against the American imperialist system, you know, because they have no choice. But, you know, it's what it is. And because of that, we all have to suffer because we have no choice. Because guess what? You think it's not important. You think, oh, what's happening over there doesn't affect you. Well, your gas prices are going up. Because all gas and diesel and all that, that's an international market. It goes to one place and then the price change right? And then we all have to live our lives based off what that cost is. So if you're driving to work, it's costing more, right? When you go to the grocery stores, the reason why your food costs more, not just the tariffs that Donald Trump put on, creating a more hostile market, because all those tariffs, which are taxes, are going back to you, because the corporation not going to take the hit. You're going to take the hit. Now they have to adjust for the gas it takes to fill up those 18-wheelers that transport your food from place to place. So your food's going to go up even further. So it costs more to go to work. It costs more to buy food. It costs more to do anything. It costs more to buy anything, because everything is more expensive. So yes, as an African American, as a black person in America, guess what? It's very important what's happening in Iran. All right? It's very important because it affects you directly. So yeah, I just wanted to, clear that up for those who don't think it's important, who don't think none of this stuff is important because you're just worried about what's happening here. All of this stuff is connected. This is the institution of white supremacy. And it's not, white supremacy doesn't just target African people. It targets everybody who's not a white Anglo-Saxon rich male. Anyway, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section. Just Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Back here in the U.S., gas prices hit $4 a gallon today as the war with Iran drives up oil prices. NBC's Christine Romans is at a gas station in New Jersey for us tonight. And Christine, we see the gas prices are getting higher and higher all across the country. They have been falling, but now back to $4 a gallon.
Yeah, $4.15 where I am, even worse for diesel here. The national average, the highest since mid-June, up 13 cents in a week. It's more than $1 higher than it was before the war began here. And, escalation with Iran means oil prices are rising again, and oil is the main ingredient for gasoline. Now, Tom, the U.S. has been draining its strategic emergency stockpiles to try to keep a lid on rising gas prices. But that means those emergency supplies are now the lowest they've been since 1983. So experts tell us that means you'll likely see higher prices in the busy summer travel season ahead if the fighting continues.
Gas in Iowa has gone up 19 cents in a week, then 12 more yesterday. And diesel has jumped 32. That's the first increase since May, after 8 straight weeks of falling prices. Now, the reason isn't complicated. The ceasefire with Iran has collapsed. On Tuesday, the Secretary of Defense told the Senate that this war has cost $37.5 billion so far. And that's just what he's told us. Yesterday, the House passed $1.1 trillion for the Pentagon and advanced $95 billion more, $70 billion of it specifically for this war. They stapled it to a voter ID bill, and then they left for a month. Now, here's the part that's worth sitting with. Congress has voted on how to pay for this war repeatedly. Congress has never voted on whether to actually have the war. Not once. 5 months in. They were asked 3 times. March, April, June. Every Iowan in Washington voted to keep it going. Hinson, Nunn, Miller Meeks, Feenstra, Ernst, and Grassley. In June, both chambers finally passed the War Powers Resolution, the first time in history. Even if it was a symbolic vote. Only 8 Republicans crossed party lines, and none from Iowa. 18 Americans have died, 6 of them from a Des Moines unit. Nearly 500 injured. And they'll fund it, but they won't vote on it.
It's affected my travels, it's affected stress, it's affected just overall happiness,
Gas prices have been going up. How has that been affecting you?
It's been horrible. I have 4 kids. I have a grandbaby, and this is ridiculous. I don't know what else they want from us. Next month, 2 months, it'll probably be $30, $40. I don't know, but it's horrible. That means less money for rent, less money for food, less money for clothing for my children. It's horrible. Really, really horrible.
It's gotten better the past few weeks, but yes, I would say I don't like paying what it's been recently. Obviously, you don't want to pay a lot at the tank, but I think in the long run, it will come down, and short term sucks, I'll say that.
Gas prices are going back up again, like I said they would, because the strait is still closed. But I don't think enough people realize that the United States wronged Iran first. We made them who they are today.
Okay, with the news this week that the oil reserves in Cushing, Oklahoma have definitively dipped below the 20 million barrel tank bottom, we really need to talk about gas and oil. Now, quick refresher if you don't know, tank bottom refers to the functional bottom of what an oil tanker or facility can reliably ship and move and contain. So when you have oil tankers, there is what's called the shell capacity. That's how much the tanker can actually hold. Then there is, what is it called? The working capacity. That's how much you can remove from the tank before basically the pumps and other equipment that maintains the tank and moves the oil starts to malfunction. So when you hit tank bottom, that means you have removed the entire working capacity or more from that oil tanker. And what you have left, that 20 million barrels that remains in there, cannot be reliably maintained or moved or delivered. So what is this going to mean? First of all, with the already reduced strategic petroleum reserves that the United States has, we've reduced them by, I can't remember, I think it's, forgive me if I'm wrong here, I think it's 86 million barrels over the last year, leaving only 300 and something million barrels in the strategic oil reserve. So what that means is that we have a decreased ability to buffer the price of oil and gas and absorb shocks such as running out of oil in Cushing. What this is going to mean overall, if the situation stays the course, is, increased gas prices, increased shipping costs, increased cost of all goods. But it's going to mean more than that, because it's going to mean increased instability and fluctuation in the stock market and the SMRP. It's going to mean increased price volatility. It's going to mean a decreased ability to handle global shocks to the economy and prices of things like oil and other goods. It's going to mean anything coming from overseas is going to skyrocket in price because of the energy required to bring it here. And understand that the United States relies on imports for the majority of our essential goods and even our food. And from the projections that I can see, any and all results of this are expected to last through November, possibly even if we were to reverse course now. So not only does this put an enormous additional pressure on the American people, and personally, in my opinion, I think that an increased volatility in the stock market benefits no one except for Trump and anyone else who might potentially be doing insider trading, by the way. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the other thing I think that they have, this is all part of what they've been doing for a year and a half, is they're just squeezing us. They're squeezing us financially, physically, legally, psychologically, emotionally. And I think that they hope that we will either just give up, just become so overwhelmed and numbed to the horror and the pace at which things are happening that we just feel like we just can't do anything, or that we will break and give them some violent incident to use. And we've been saying this for a while now, I know. Some violent incident to use, though, as an excuse to do the true type of oppression that they crave, the bloody crackdown that people like Stephen Miller and Pete Hegseth dream of at night. But they keep ratcheting up the pressure, and understand they will be doing this through November. I don't think, and I've said this multiple times, I don't think that Trump wants to deal with Iran. I don't think he's in any hurry to end the war. He's making money. It makes him feel powerful. What's in it for him? He doesn't care if we pay more for stuff. He's got billions. He's not even going to feel a bump in prices. He's making more money off of the presidency than he could ever pay in increased costs. So what's in it for him?
How many people woke up this morning to this terrible, terrible news about the price for a barrel of oil is now at $100 a barrel. And, the stock market is tanking. Once again, Donald Trump is ruining America every single day. Oil prices roared back to $100 this morning after Tehran-backed Houthi militants claimed attacks on 2 Saudi tankers in the Red Sea, threatening another important route for oil flow and stoking fears that the United States-Iran conflict could escalate further. Brent crude futures jumped 6%, more than $25 higher than where they stood in early July. U.S. stock futures are sliding as inflation worries compound on fears about big tech's free cash flow negativity. Google parent Alphabet is sliding more than 5% pre-market after it raised its capital spending forecast for this year to as much as $205 billion, fanning fears about AI spending. Tesla is down more than 7%. And this is how it is hurting you Trump supporters. As gas prices climb past $4 again, Fox figures shrug off rising costs tied to Iran while shifting blame to Biden's use of strategic petroleum reserves. As gas prices climbed back up to a national average of $4 a gallon on July 20th, and the U.S. strategic petroleum reserves dropped to its lowest levels in more than 4 decades. Wow. Donald Trump is ruining America, and he's still blaming Biden and Obama. And MAGA, you still keep falling for this. Our children are coming home in body bags. The economy is in shambles. And you're wondering who to vote for come November? Whew, you Trump supporters, I tell you, you really are the most un-American people I've ever seen.
Every accusation is a confession. I will not elaborate.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.